Welcome back to Wordletalks. So it is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. And look, I know everyone is still probably recovering from the weekend.
Oh, definitely.
I am personally still processing the sheer scale of that Bad Bunny halftime show. It was a spectacle, just absolute chaos in the best way.
A total spectacle.
But if you were actually paying attention to the screen during the breaks, instead of just refilling the guacamole, you saw something much more significant happening.
It felt like a tectonic shift in the industry, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, usually the Super Bowl is the domain of light beer, pickup trucks, and maybe a crypto exchange that won't exist in 6 months.
Right.
This year. It felt like a Silicon Valley keynote crashed the party and locked the doors.
Exactly. It was the AI Super Bowl. Well, we aren't just talking about tech companies buying 30-second spots. We've seen that before.
No, this is different.
We're talking about a very specific, very aggressive narrative war playing out in real time between the biggest names in artificial intelligence. We saw Anthropic going for the absolute jugular against OpenAI.
And at the same time, you saw companies like Salesforce and Genspark trying to convince us that AI is basically our new best friend.
It was a battle for the narrative.
And honestly, looking deeper at the strategy, it was a battle for trust. The industry is at a tipping point, and these companies, they know it.
So for today's deep dive, we're going to unpack this whole phenomenon. We're going to dissect what analysts are calling AI humanism, which, let's be honest, sounds like a bit of an oxymoron.
A little bit, yeah.
We are going to analyze those savage Anthropic commercials that everyone is talking about, the Short King incident, and we're going to look at the business reality behind why this is happening now.
And to keep us grounded, we're drawing our insights today from a really comprehensive report by Alyssa Boyle for AdExchanger. It's titled, AI Made a Record Play During Super Bowl LIX. Plus, some other context on the history here.
Okay, so let's set the stage. Who actually showed up to play on Sunday?
It was a crowded field. At expensive real estate, you had the Incumbents, obviously Meta was there, and Amazon was pushing AI through their Ring doorbell brand. You had the enterprise giants like Salesforce making a massive push. But the real story, the one that dominated the water cooler conversation on Monday, was the challengers.
Right.
You had a huge aggressive campaign from Anthropic, and you had a smaller, newer player called Genspark.ai.
It's interesting you mentioned challengers because looking at the production value and the ad spend, these didn't feel like underdog moves.
Not at all. These are power plays.
But before we get into the specific beef between the companies and the drama is juicy, I want to talk about the vibe. Andrew Frank, a VP analyst at Gartner, he coined a specific term for what we saw Sunday night.
He did?
He called it AI humanism.
Right. And I think that term captures the strategy perfectly. If you look at the last 2 years, really since the explosion of generative AI in 2023 and 2024, the public narrative has been, well, let's say, volatile.
Volatile is a very polite way of putting it. I think fearful or annoyed or just exhausted is probably more accurate for the average person.
Exactly. We've had the AI slop era.
Yeah.
Social media feeds have been flooded with hallucinated images, fake news, deep fakes, and, weird hands with 7 fingers.
The hands.
The perception of AI drifted toward fake, sloppy, and deceptive.
Or just straight up threatening. The narrative went from, look at this cool poem, to the robot is coming for my job very, very quickly.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So AI humanism is the industry's attempt to pivot. The goal of these Super Bowl ads was to reframe AI not as a replacement for humans.
Okay.
And not as a generator of fake content, but as a tool for emotional connection and productivity. They are trying to sell empowerment to counter the narrative of displacement.
So it's a massive PR cleanup operation. It's saying, hey, we aren't the Terminator. We're your helpful buddy who organizes your spreadsheet so you can go to your kid's soccer game.
It's a survival strategy. Think about it. If people don't trust the tool, they won't adopt it into their daily lives. The churn rates go through the roof. They need to build an emotional bridge between the user and the algorithm. But, and this is the crux of the episode today, that attempt to be humanistic runs headfirst into a brick wall when you start talking about how these companies actually make money.
Which brings us to the chatbot ad wars. This was the main event. Anthropic versus OpenAI.
I have to say I have. I have rarely seen a B2B tech rivalry play out this aggressively on a consumer stage. This was Pepsi versus Coke levels of shade, but with billion-dollar algorithms.
Anthropic came out swinging. They made their Super Bowl debut, and instead of just showing us how cool their product, Claude, is,
Nope.
they used their millions of dollars in airtime to roast OpenAI. Specifically, they targeted OpenAI's decision to put ads in ChatGPT.
Which is a decision that has been controversial since the moment it leaked, and Anthropic clearly identified that as a wedge issue.
Let's break down the commercials, because they were genuinely funny, but they were also kind of painful to watch because they felt so plausible. Did you catch the one with the therapist?
The therapist spot, yes. It was brilliant marketing because it was so uncomfortable.
So for anyone who might have been in the kitchen grabbing wings, you see a man on a couch talking to a therapist. But the therapist is clearly a stand-in for a generic AI chatbot.
A very generic one.
And the guy is being super vulnerable. He's asking for genuine advice on how to communicate better with his mother. He is pouring his heart out, looking for connection.
A deeply human moment. A moment requiring empathy, nuance, and context.
Right. And the therapist, the AI, it pauses, processes, and then looks him dead in the eye and says,
I recommend this dating site for meeting older women.
It's just, it was so brutal.
It lands as a joke, but it stings because it highlights a technical reality. When an algorithm is incentivized to serve ads, its priority shifts from contextual understanding to keyword matching.
It heard mother and communicate.
And the ad engine fired dating site for older women.
Brutal. The look on the actor's face was perfect. It was just pure betrayal. It completely undercut the humanism vibe. And then there was the second one, the trainer spot.
This one was arguably even more direct and maybe a little meaner.
Yeah. You've got a young guy asking a personal trainer again, a chatbot stand-in for a workout plan. He's giving his stats, height, weight, goals, trying to better himself. And instead of a workout plan, the trainer looks him up and down, sizes him up, and recommends.
Insoles for short kings.
Savage. Absolutely savage.
That's insulting.
It is. And both ads end with the same punchline on the screen. Ads are coming to AI, but not to Claude.
It's a very strong positioning statement. Anthropic is trying to claim the moral high ground. They are positioning Claude as the premium, clean, and private alternative.
Just bet.
They're betting that users are sophisticated enough to understand that if a product is free, they are the product.
It reminds me of the early days of HBO versus cable. It's not TV, it's HBO.
That's a great analogy.
No commercials, just quality. Anthropic is trying to be the HBO of AI right now.
That's a perfect analogy. But there's a massive layer of irony here that we have to unpack. Because if we rewind the clock just 2 years to 2024, who was the biggest champion of no ads in AI?
Oh, no. Don't tell me it was OpenAI.
It was explicitly OpenAI.
Yeah.
Sam Altman, the CEO, went on record multiple times.
What did he say?
He called the idea of ads in AI uniquely unsettling.
Uniquely unsettling.
Wow. Those are strong words for something you end up doing 2 years later. He went on to say that ads should be a last resort business model. The entire brand promise of ChatGPT in the beginning was that it was a neutral intelligence.
Right.
It was supposed to be uncorrupted by commercial influence.
And yet here we are in 2026. They're testing ads, launching ad tiers. They caved.
They gave in to temptation, as the report puts it, and that flip-flop is exactly why Anthropic's attack landed so hard. They are holding up a mirror to OpenAI and saying, we are what you claim to be. We are keeping the promise you broke.
But let's play devil's advocate here for a second, because I look at this and I think, okay, Anthropic, you're taking the high road. But you also just spent, what, $14 million on Super Bowl ads?
At least.
To tell us you don't like ads.
The meta-irony is thick, isn't it?
It's incredibly thick.
Well,
we hate advertising so much that we bought the most expensive advertising slot on earth to tell you about it.
It is ironic, but strategically it might be necessary. You have to remember the technical constraints here. These large language models, LLMs, they're incredibly expensive to run.
The inference costs.
Right, the inference cost, the actual cost of electricity and computing power every time you type a prompt, it's high. It's not like a Google search, which is relatively cheap.
Right, servers aren't free, energy isn't free. Every time I ask Claude to write a limerick about my cat, that costs them actual money.
Exactly. OpenAI turned to ads because the subscription model alone, that $20 a month, it's hard to scale to the level of profitability they need to satisfy their investors, especially Microsoft.
So they're just following the money.
Ads are the golden goose of the internet. Google proved that. Meta proved that. OpenAI is just following the money because the computing bills are astronomical.
So the question becomes, is Anthropic actually principled, or are they just
earlier in the cycle? Exactly. That is the billion-dollar question.
What? Is
no ads a permanent philosophy for Anthropic, or is it a loss leader strategy to steal market share?
Get us all hooked.
Come to us. We're clean. And then 3 years from now, once we're all hooked on Claude, Do the pizza ads start appearing?
That's the worry. The enshittification of platforms seems almost inevitable.
It usually is.
Yeah.
And let's look at the user experience side of this. Why did Sam Altman call it unsettling? Because chatting with an AI, it feels intimate.
It really does. It's not like searching on Google. When I Google symptoms of flu, I expect links and maybe some ads for medicine in the sidebar. It feels transactional.
Right.
I know I'm querying a database, but if I'm having a conversation with a bot and I say, I'm feeling really sick and down today, and it replies with a compassionate voice and then tries to sell me soup, that feels gross.
It breaks the suspension of disbelief. It creates what we call a rupture in the dyadic interaction. You feel like you're talking to an entity, and suddenly that entity reveals it's actually a billboard.
It's a betrayal.
It creates a sense of betrayal that is much deeper than seeing a banner ad on a website.
That's the uncanny valley of advertising.
Exactly. And that is why Anthropic's campaign was so effective. They targeted that visceral feeling of grossness. They validated the user's feeling that ads in a conversation are an invasion.
So that was the war. That was the negative side of the AI humanism coin fighting over who is less annoying. But the Super Bowl wasn't all negative.
No, not at all.
There were other companies trying to sell a more optimistic vision, specifically around productivity.
Right. If Anthropic and OpenAI were fighting over the soul of the chatbot, companies like Genspark.ai and Salesforce were focused purely on utility. They wanted to answer the practical question, why should I keep paying for this?
Let's talk about Genspark.ai. They are a smaller player compared to the Titans, but they bought a spot. What was their pitch?
Their pitch was very direct and honestly very relatable to anyone working a corporate job. Their tagline was, the AI for work.
Simple.
Very. And the commercial visualized something we all feel. It showed office workers just drowning in the mundane. Spreadsheets, slide decks, data entry.
The drudgery, the stuff that makes you question your life choices at 3 p.m. on a Thursday.
Right, and they showed these workers using Genspark's tech to blitz through that work.
Yeah.
But the payoff wasn't now you can do more work.
No, of course not.
The payoff in the ad was that the employees got to clock out early.
See, now that is a message I can get behind.
It's a very smart pivot from the fear narrative. A lot of the fear around AI is AI takes your job. Genspark flipped it to AI takes the worst parts of your job so you can have your life back.
It feels like they are trying to align AI with work-life balance, which is a huge cultural topic right now.
Exactly. It fits perfectly into the AI humanism theme. It's not replacing the human, it's liberating the human. It is framing AI as a tool for freedom.
And then we had Salesforce. And they didn't just bring software, they brought MrBeast.
You can't get much bigger than that for reach. If you want to mainstream a product, you get Jimmy Donaldson.
No kidding. And they were promoting Slackbot. Now, I feel like everyone uses Slack, but maybe not everyone realizes how much AI is being shoved into it these days.
That's the challenge Salesforce has. They have these powerful tools, but they are buried in enterprise software that people associate with stress.
Sure.
So in the ad, MrBeast refers to Slackbot as this powerful new AI that can help answer difficult questions and decipher puzzles.
Decipher puzzles. That's interesting phrasing for a workplace tool. It makes it sound like an adventure game, not a way to find a lost PDF.
That's the narrative shift again. They're trying to make corporate software feel authentic, meaningful, and maybe even a little exciting.
Empowering the user, not monitoring them.
Exactly.
So it seems like there were two distinct visions of the future presented during the game. On one side, you have the productivity boosters, Genspark, Salesforce saying life is easier with us. And on the other side, you have the chatbot wars fighting over the user interface and the sanctity of the conversation.
That's a great way to frame it. And the common thread is this battle for trust, whether it's promising to save you time or promising not to sell you out to advertisers. Every single one of these companies is terrified that the public is going to turn on them.
Because if we decide AI is just slop and spam, the bubble bursts. The investment dries up.
Precisely. They need us to see them as humanistic. They need us to believe that they are on our side. The entire AI humanism concept is a defense mechanism against the tech backlash.
But the article poses a really interesting philosophical question towards the end. It says AI can answer complex questions. It can decipher puzzles from MrBeast. But there is one question it seemingly can't answer.
Are ads in AI appropriate?
Yeah, that's the one. And looking at the Anthropic ad, they clearly think the answer is no.
While OpenAI has decided the answer is yes, if we want to survive as a business. And this brings us to the listener. Because you listening to this, you are the battleground.
We are the ones typing in the prompts. We are the ones training these models with our data. And ultimately, we're the ones deciding which subscription to cancel.
And as you use these tools, you have to ask yourself, what is the trade-off you are willing to make? We are entering a fragmented internet.
How so?
On one side, you will have the free AI, the OpenAI model, where you pay with your attention and your data. The therapist might suggest a dating app, or the trainer might suggest a specific brand of protein powder.
And on the other side?
On the other side, you have the premium AI, the Anthropic model, where you pay with actual money for privacy and clarity. It's the same split we see in news, in streaming, in almost every digital service.
It feels like the internet is splitting into gated communities and public squares with billboards.
That is exactly what is happening. And AI humanism is the marketing language being used to sell us tickets to those gated communities. They are telling us it's nicer in here, the robots are friendlier, they don't try to sell you things.
I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the uncanny valley. Do you think AI humanism can actually work? Can we ever really feel connected to these things in the way they want us to?
That depends on your definition of connection. Can they simulate empathy? Yes. The models are getting incredibly good at tone. They can sound supportive, funny, or serious. But can they offer care? No. And that is where the ad breaks the spell. An ad is a reminder that the entity doesn't care about you. It cares about the transaction.
Right. A friend doesn't pause in the middle of comforting you to sell you a mattress. A friend doesn't recommend insoles when you're feeling insecure about your height.
Exactly. Mixing humanism with advertising is like mixing oil and water. You can shake it up and make it look mixed for a second, during a Super Bowl ad perhaps, but eventually it separates.
The commercial imperative always rises to the top.
Always.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Super Bowl ad wars, I'm left with this thought. We saw millions of dollars spent to convince us that these companies are human-centric, empowering, and principled.
But we have to remember, this is marketing. It is storytelling.
Right. And here is the provocative thought I want to leave everyone with today. We are seeing these companies fight over who is more human. But if AI companies are spending this much money to convince us they are humanistic, is it because they truly are? Or is it because they know that deep down we are starting to see behind the curtain?
It's the Trojan horse theory. They make the face of the horse look friendly and human, so you let it into the city walls.
Okay.
Once it's inside, and once you rely on it for your work, your therapy, your fitness, then the soldiers come out.
And in this case, the soldiers are the advertisers.
Or simply the price hikes. Once you are dependent on the tool for your productivity, you have very little leverage.
And the question remains, how long can Anthropic really hold out? Sam Altman held out until the server bills got too high. Is Anthropic's no ads stance a permanent philosophy or just a waiting game?
History would suggest it's a waiting game. In tech, never usually just means not yet.
Well, in that cheerful note, we're going to wrap it up. We'll be watching closely to see if Claude starts suggesting specific brands of pizza next week. Thanks for listening to Wordletalks.
Stay curious and read the fine print.
See you next time.